In this video, we're going to be taking another look at Wuthering Waves, comparing it to between Windows and CachyOS. I'm including the raw FPS and the on-screen FPS, which the raw FPS is what goes into the DWM, which is a compositor and scheduler, which means it's adding frames fake frames in between the actual frames to make it look like it's a smoother experience. The FPS on screen is what comes out of the compositor and scheduler. So let's see how this game performs. I'm running around this local area, seeing if I can find anything to fight. I haven't played this game in a while, so I may be a little rusty on finding mobs. Oh, here's some. See how well these mobs I do against these mobs. So far it's fairly smooth, but the FPS is below 60. So I don't know if this is reading wrong with that, but it's hovering around 60. And this is coming straight from Rivet Tuner with the metrics. I may need to look at finding a new way to display the FPS if this is indeed inaccurate. Then again, it could just be Windows DWM putting in the extra frames to make it look like it's running smooth. Right now we're sitting at 81, 82 degrees Celsius with 15% CPU usage. The graphics card temperature is around 66 degrees Celsius. With it almost being maxed out, the RAM is 12.5 gigs. No, that's a VRAM, my fault. The regular RAM is almost 34 gigs. Latency sitting at 21 milliseconds with 61 FPS roughly between the raw and the on-screen. There is a 1 to 2 FPS discrepancy periodically, but for the most part it looks like it's staying the same. It feels fluid. I would say there's probably not going to be much difference between CachyOS and Windows 11 for this game. Oh, great. Yeah, I think I messed that up. I think there was one more I was supposed to fix, but I don't see it. Anyway, I'll leave that because I'm testing the game. I'll say that this runs smoother than what it's saying, if that's what it's worth. And this is at 4K. So if we go into the options, you can see I'm running at 4K. I'm running at 120 FPS. The VSync is off. It's on high and low and medium, so it's a mix of things. Now let's see what happens if I adjust this to 1440p. And if I go full screen, just to give you an idea. Give it a second to clear things out. I'm noticing that it's trying to drop the RAM usage and the VRAM usage. We'll see this. You'll be able to tell this in the video, because you'll be able to scroll back between the two. But as you can see, let me see if it's set properly, because that doesn't. Let's go with quality. Yeah, let's go with that. There we go. Now we can see what it looks like. The VRAM dropped by 3 gigs right there. FPS is staying at 60 on the screen. Yeah. Which I still need to figure out if it's working properly. And this is at 1440p that we're running it at on high settings. So let's see what happens if I turn it down to, it's on quality settings, window mode. See what happens if I turn it down 1080p. Just out of curiosity, and yes, I want to have to scale it up in a window. So let's see how this works. As you can see, the text got bigger and it's covering more of the screen, but this is just mainly for testing at lower resolution sizes. So right now the GPU is around half usage. VRAM is down at 10.3 gigs. That's the VRAM. Normal RAM is 33.6 gigs. FPS is a solid 61, 60, 61. So there's not too much difference between 1080p and 1440p, but you can see that the higher resolution I go, the more it tanks. So let's set this back at 4K, which I want to downscale this window again. So let me get this back to where it was. Now we're running quality at 4K, and now you can see it's almost capped out. We're back up to 34 gigs of regular RAM, 13.6, and climbing, slowly heading towards 14 gigs of VRAM. So we're almost tapped out with this game, and OBS being used. Regarding my specs, now this is a Ryzen 5950X, an RX 9070 XT, and 64 gigabytes of DDR4 memory. So while this is outdated as it's an AM4 platform, it is not a weak system yet. So there's still some life in this platform that I'm using. Is it Windows? Is it the game? We'll find out when I test under CachyOS. But for now, this is where I'm going to leave the Windows 11 side. I don't know if the metrics are right or if it's at least on the FPS side of it. I'll have to do some more research in RivetTuner, but as you can see, I would say it's between 60 and 90 FPS. Because as soon as I'm hitting the keys and the character's moving in the direction of the keys that I'm pressing. It feels very responsive. Well, I'm gonna end it here. I'll upload this video once I get the CachyOS side recorded and the video edited. In this video, we are going to be looking at an updated version of how CachyOS compares to Windows 11. I already recorded the Windows 11 side. I'm going to edit the video footage from both by placing them side by side. The audio of one will be first, and then the audio of the other will be second. As you can see, I'm running an AMD 5950X for my CPU, a RX 9070 XT for my graphics card. I have 64 gigabytes of DDR4 memory in my system. This information is on the screen. The Windows side, I need to figure out how to add the 1% low and stuff, but CachyOS has that. by default. We're using 100% of the graphics card. It is running at 61 degrees Celsius, around 3 gigahertz. It's pulling in around 330 watts. The VRAM is 9.3 gigs out of 16 gigs. The VRAM temperature is 78 degrees Celsius at 1.25 gigahertz. I'm using the Mesa 26.1.6- Arch 3.1 for the AMD driver. My AMD 5950X is sitting at 5-6% utilization. It's at 53 degrees Celsius at 4.3 gigahertz. The power consumption in watts is still wrong. It's unable to pull that information.
This is a testament to my connection.
The RAM is at 13.1 gigabits. We're looking at 45 FPS at 22 milliseconds. 47 FPS is the average. 36 is the 1% low. We're looking at 20.5 milliseconds to 23.9 milliseconds is what I saw as the highest for the frame time. We're running this in 4K. The CachyOS version is 7.1.8-1-CachyOS. It is a rolling release, so it gets constant updates. Now let's go see how this combat plays out compared to Windows. I just have to find some creatures to battle. Okay, those are friendly. Huh? Okay then. Oh, here's some mobs. This feels more fluid than Windows at 4K resolution. People on NVIDIA cards may have a worse experience because CachyOS and other Linux distros have been known to work better with AMD hardware due to the fact that NVIDIA has made it so it's harder to get the drivers functioning properly, because for the longest time they haven't been I'm trying to remember the word. It's not freeware. Open. Okay, so they didn't agree with open source technology and that type of stuff. So they didn't want to make like open source drivers, and because they were afraid their stuff would leak out. However, recently they actually started working with the open source community and getting drivers out there, so hopefully the NVIDIA side improves. but only time will tell. They could be on par. The NVIDIA drivers could be on par with the AMD drivers now. It's just when I last looked into it, they were just getting back into making NVIDIA cards work again with the Linux distros.
Leave it to me.
Okay, I stumbled into a boss fight. This will be interesting.
Break. Swift and resolute. One with the sound.
Let's see how I can do against this.
Of resonance.
I would say, for those who are interested in checking something out, CachyOS could be something that might get you to switch out off of Windows, because I only really use Windows now for when I'm making video content. I'm primarily on CachyOS. Now, it's not going to crush Windows in every regard. However, it is competitive with Windows, and that's what matters. Get a competitive foothold, and then take the dominant platform. Now, I'm not saying to go with CachyOS itself, as there are other distros that one may like better. I just like CachyOS because it has burst-oriented... Crap, I can't remember what... Give me a second, I want to look up this acronym. I know it's BOR, but I can't remember the exact words. So it stands for Burst Oriented Response Enhancer. It's a CPU scheduler for Linux kernel designed to maximize desktop responsiveness and gaming fluidity by prioritizing interactive tasks over strict background fairness. So, if you want the best CachyOS experience, you go with Limine. It's Limine with the BORST scheduler. Your OS drive can either be ext4, which is a very simple.
The world around me, and it's very much my companion now. Bearing witness to everything I've experienced on this journey.
It's a file system format. You can go with the ext4 file system format, or you can go with BTRFS for your operating system drive, depending on your needs. For a gaming drive, you will want it to be ext4, because ext4 is more your simple volume, and when you have to have your shaders load, ext4 handles loading shaders that happen before the game boots up a lot more efficiently. Normal storage drive, you can go either way. Basically, ext4 is like, it's simple. It doesn't have data corruption protection. It doesn't have the capability of doing backup snapshots within itself, whereas BTRFS it's a bit slower because it compresses files. And then it does have snapshot backups that you can set up right out the box. So you're trading performance for protection, basically. As a common user, yes, advanced users can mitigate this with doing other tricks, but the average newer user to Linux, including CachyOS, will have a harder time. That's why I advocate for your gaming drives being ext4, and depending on your need case, you can go either ext4 or BTRFS on your OS drive, and then put your extremely important files on a third storage drive that's BTRFS. So you can have your OS drive and your games on one drive, well, on their own separate drives as the exe4. Then you can have BTRFS for all your important files. Now, if you don't feel comfortable with having to reinstall your operating system, you can set it up to BTRFS and rewind your OS drive to an earlier snapshot that you know worked. Enough of that rambling. Let's get back to looking at the game, see how it performs. To my knowledge, it seems to perform really well.
Let me be there for everyone. Strike from the shadows. Moment of resonance.
Ready for battle.
As you can see, this is very fluid.
Swift and resolute. No hesitation. One with the sound. I sense your weakness.
You're wide open. Wind Rider.
This is a game at 4K. I'm going to turn it down just like I did with Windows, so you can see 2K resolution, and then 14, which is 1440p, and then I'm also going to show you what 1080p looks like. So let's go with here, okay, so I'm going to do high quality first. As you see, it barely changed with 4K. Now if we go to probably gonna have to go window mode. So we're gonna go to 1440p. As you see, it improves a bit, and my graphics card is taxed less. Which the game still looks pretty decent. It's not the picture perfect resolution, but it still looks very good. More stable frame rate. I will say the latency is better on CachyOS by about 4, maybe 5 milliseconds. So if that's something to be a perk on, I think it's a combination of DWM on Windows 11 that Microsoft needs to get worked out, And then it's also the CachyOS board scheduler not getting in the way of things. So I believe it's a combination of the two.
This is a test of
But
the
that's what I say.
and it's very much my companion.
Now if we go to 1080p, let's see what that gives. Wow, this is tiny. On my monitor. Like, I could play 4 games with this setting. Now, as you can see, it did improve a little more, but, and you can see from the wattage going down on the graphics card. As you can see, the graphics still look fairly good. I mean, yes, you can see the color's not as detailed, and the skin looks more rubbery. I guess slightly blurry, like it got smudged a little bit, but other than that, it looks very good. Now, let's see what these graphics settings are. So that was high quality. If we go balanced, let's look at balance on here. I should have done this with Windows, but I would say it's probably similar. So that's 2K, I mean 1080p balance. It shows it at the bottom left corner. So let's go with 1440p balanced. See what that looks like. Now it looks smooth. It seems smoother, and as you can see, the characters looks better. The environment looks a little bit better. Now let's go with 4K, which is 2160p. Now this is actually more playable with like this. I mean, yes, it dips a little bit below 60 right now, but it's maintaining 60 a lot better. Essentially, it's just messing with your settings and getting the better results, because as you can see, at balance, I'm using less wattage for my graphics card, and my latency is staying lower. It's a combination of your quality settings, which adds data layers for the total amount of data that needs to be transferred per second, and your resolution also factors in, because it's your height times the width of your resolution, and then multiply that by the FPS you're aiming for, and that gets you your amount of file size you need per minute, or per second, I should say. And if you exceed that with your graphics card or anything else, it's gonna make your game worse off. And I'm gonna leave it here because this was just to test the game and performance wise, and My final thoughts are both Windows 11 and CachyOS running close enough to where I would call this a margin of error. Maybe there was something going on one OS, let's say Windows 11, that made it seem worse. Because I feel this is within 3%, which is technically margin of error. But I will say, CachyOS seems like it has a smoother experience. Whereas I think Windows, when it runs correctly, it'll give you a better experience. However, Windows 11 has hiccups. I feel that's from DWM and background services on Windows. So if Windows fixed that, they'd be able to fully compete with CachyOS on this game. And they might even edge it out. And this is the end of the video.